Hi everyone, I'm Megan. I'm the US lead for the vision care business here at Morgan Latif. My background is I used to do executive search in pharma and biotech. And obviously that was a lot broader, looking across multiple therapeutic areas. So it was super exciting to have the opportunity to almost just focus in one space, which is the vision care space, working both on the optical side, so looking at frames and lenses, as well as on the medical side. So surgical, pharma, contact lenses, etc. And obviously, as part of my role, I'm speaking to a range of hiring managers on a daily basis. And often it's quite amazing how some companies in general kind of fail to articulate what their culture looks like. And so it's really important to be having those conversations when you're looking to partner with organization and help them market themselves to industry to bring in the best talent, and equally often speaking to candidates on a regular basis who sometimes will be leaving their businesses because of poor culture, and it's a case of helping them to look for the right companies in the future. And as just echoing what Josephina said, it's super important to not only attract the right talent, to retain the right talent, and then longer term obviously aim for that business growth. And yeah, so really looking forward to the stories that will be shared today, and hopefully there'll be some really great takeaways. And yeah, handing over to Jennifer.
Hi there, nice to speak with everyone. I'm Jen Trakhtenberg. I oversee the talent people function for Clear Vision Optical. We're a 75-year-old family-owned business. We're domiciled in New York in the US. I have been with Clear Vision 15 years this December, and have really grown with the organization as it relates to overseeing people, culture, and philanthropy. We really consider our employees to be our very first customer. And with that, our people function has really grown and created an environment where we've been recognized for the past 9 years as the best company to work for. I also took over 4 years ago as co-chief operating officer, along with my colleague. Part of that responsibility is really unique for somebody coming from a people function, but we really look at the fact that our people are our greatest asset, and we truly believe there's so much that they have to offer. And that gives me a unique perspective as I look at how the business gets organized. Earlier in my career, I started in banking and human resources. So I worked in an investment bank in the earliest days of my career, had an amazing opportunity to really work and lead global teams, went on to a technology company where we were in a .com environment and had the opportunity to really make a larger impact as I led the people function and had responsibility for growing a high-performing team, introducing performance management, thinking about succession planning, and then made my way to Clear Vision. And it has been an amazing journey, so many fun stories to share, and very much looking forward to that. As I often explain during interviews, I'm also a mom. I have an 11 and a 15-year-old who keep me quite entertained and busy. And we are a family-owned business at Clear Vision, so we talk a lot about how do we relate with our work family and our Clear Vision family, along with our home team. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to share so many stories. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Megan.
Well, firstly, thanks again, Jen, for joining us today. Obviously, really appreciate the time. And as we said, looking forward to hearing some of the anecdotes that we've got about Clear Vision. It'd be great to kind of kick off then by kind of just having a discussion around why positive culture is so important to you, and then again, how you basically describe the culture at Clear Vision.
When I think about culture and I think about why it matters, I truly believe culture embodies how it feels to work in an organization, why we consider working with one another, what is the shared goal, what is that feeling that you have when you're trying to decide on Sunday what that emotion is going to be waking up on Monday morning. And for us, we are a values-based organization. I talk about it a great deal. I believe that in many cases, companies believe that they should have values and they proudly display them on the wall, but they don't necessarily live them. And for us, we have values that were defined by our owners. The values really embody how we make business decisions every day. And having values is easy when decisions are easy. But when challenges present, when obstacles occur, when things become complex, and you're able to hold up those values and really determine that they still serve you and that you can make decisions with them as your guidepost, then they really have that staying power. And for us, those values are easy. And interestingly, one of our values is fun. And so in everything that we do, we care very much about how we treat people, integrity, respect, compassion. We care very much about how we show up for one another, how we serve our market, service, performance, innovation. But in doing so, we are all adults who like to play. And we do better, we're more creative when we have that infused in the equation. So we include fun as one of our values. And what I would say to you is I have so many rich examples where it isn't always easy. It may cost a little bit more money. It may be at odds with what would be obvious, but we go back to those values as our guideposts. And my belief is that your words and your actions need to have congruence so that you can be credible, so that people do believe you, and that the values that we share really become a common language for us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I guess it'd be great to hear a story or two of basically initiatives that you've put in place to ensure that this culture is really felt throughout the organization.
Sure. So I believe that one of the best structural elements of the company is the fact that we're fairly flat. So we don't have a lot of hierarchy. We're a mid-sized company. We have tremendous employee retention. And by intentionally being fairly flat, we give people the access and the encouragement to do what we call raise your hand. So raise your hand means let us know if you have a good idea. Let us know if you observe something that isn't working productively. Let us know if there's a process that maybe we've outgrown or is having some growing pains. Let us know if there's a safety concern. And so we solicit feedback regularly, and that creates an environment where regardless of what your role is or your tenure, there's always a place for you to have an impact and a voice. And so the way that that comes through is in different fashions. So we are a work from anywhere organization, but we do still have a warehouse team. And we also have our field sales team. So we have different populations all operating simultaneously and cohesively. So we have to be able to have mechanisms in place for everybody to be able to be encouraged to communicate. So we have very active surveys that we do regularly. We have what we call our CVO circles, which are really mixed focus groups. So people can meet up and talk about different topics, talk about different ideas. We use various Microsoft Teams channels. We also have our water cooler chats, which are based on more like hobby-like topics. So there's always a place and an opportunity to share, and it's encouraged regularly. So I would say that's just one example.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And through that, I guess, what would you say then has been the positive impact that's had not only on, of course, employee satisfaction, but equally then kind of longer term company performance?
So what I would say is multifold. So when you create an environment where everyone's encouraged to participate, people don't hold great ideas. They don't shy away from letting you know sometimes news that you may not want to hear, but is important in steering the company in the right direction. Everybody feels like there's a chance to participate, and we really encourage that. And so with that in mind, you do create an environment where people come and they stay. Everybody knows that turnover has an enormous impact and a cost factor in terms of loss of institutional knowledge, loss of consistency, loss of relationships. So when you're able to have a team that really has cohesion, great communication, trust in one another, and an emphasis on coming and staying, then you really reduce a lot of friction and you have this chance to really partner. So I would say that's one of them. I would say the other thing is we've created an environment and we have a really dynamic student internship program. And many of our best hires have come out of the intern program, and they see from the youngest age, we have some kids in high school all the way through PhD, they see from the earliest stage that even without necessarily having work experience, they still have a way that they can contribute and participate. And they build their careers with us. And we have so many people throughout every department of the organization that have done that. And that has made a really meaningful talent pipeline. And I can just point to so many good examples where that has been beneficial.
Please feel free to share an example as well. It's always great to hear kind of small stories as well.
Sure. So I would tell you that some of our most talented people, if I think around the company, our creative director was one of my first intern hires. She's with us many years later. Our on my team, the talent team, two of my colleagues are started as master's level interns, and they are thriving now 5 and 10 years later and really have taken on an enormous amount of responsibility as I stepped into the COO role. Literally every department. And I even have two really great examples of boomerangs who interns with us, got experience elsewhere, and then came back and are now really flourishing as senior professionals and growing their family while they're working with our team. So just really lots of different ways that the talent comes together as a result of creating the right environment where people can thrive and shine.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess on the flip side as well, what have you found to be some of the bigger challenges with kind of implementing culture? And then how have you overcome those challenges and kind of how is the company performing as a result?
A more timely challenge would be we have a physical building in New York that we're very proud of. We imprint our culture on all the walls. So if you walk throughout our Hapag building, the colors are vibrant, the art is unique. There's a different clock in every space. We've designed conference rooms that are very inspirational, and we love our building. It is still our work home. But when the pandemic hit, we did end up making the decision to go work from anywhere. So how do you take that physical meeting space and manifest it virtually? How do we create an environment where different groups of people are still able to continue to communicate? And so one of the very first things that we did when we all headed home was to say, we are going to show up for each other every single day. We're going to show up with our cameras on. We are going to have lots of fun backgrounds, and you can see the jungle behind mine. So we have spirit weeks regularly with different themes. Right now, we just introduced a new brand. So we're talking about uncommon places. And this is my jungle scene. And we had to figure out, how do we recreate a culture that had a lot of let's meet up in the break room and have, celebrations together, or let's do things with a physical capacity. How do we recreate that virtually? And so, some of the ways that we've done that have been through creating gamification. So we do a lot of gaming to do trainings. We do gaming for contests and engagement. We do have these water cooler chats, which are different opportunities for people to engage around topics they're interested in, which range from foodie topics to pets to sports teams to, we have a very dynamic walking club going on right now and people are participating virtually. So how do you create an environment where there's connectivity when people are working remotely? And frankly, that flexibility has been invaluable. But I would give you one other counterpoint to it, which is we do still have a warehouse team. So one of the things that I talk about regularly is, we can't necessarily treat everybody the same, but we can treat everybody fairly. Mm-hmm. And so when we did make the decision to become work from anywhere, we had this warehouse team. And how do you continue to keep them safe and rewarded and supported? And so what we ended up doing is we created 2 shifts. The shifts actually each work 6 hours, but they get paid for 8. So what happened as a result of that is that, number one, they got increased flexibility. Number two, it gave them the ability to determine which time frame was better for them. Are they better 6:30 a.m. to 12:30, or are they better 1 to 7? We actually got better coverage with even a smaller team, and it gave them the chance that either they would have the opportunity to work a second job if they wanted, or to do caregiving responsibilities. And we have a number of people with elder and child care, or many of them actually developed a gym habit and they changed their lifestyle. So we couldn't say to them, you can pick, pack, and ship from home. That's not realistic. We have the products in our warehouse. But we could say to them, we want to give you the flexibility that we're giving others, and this is another way of doing it. And as a result of that, we've had amazing retention. And the end result was we actually have people in our warehouse who, most warehouses turn over 50% every year. Most of our warehouse team is with us more than 20 years.
Amazing. And I guess one final point as well, obviously this is a vision care related webinar as well. Would you say that there are any culturally related topics that you find that relate specifically to this? Obviously, I know you've come from a banking background as well, but yeah, any kind of pointers there?
So what I would say to you is we have an unbelievably talented optical sales team. We have welcomed so many incredible individuals, both from opticianry as well as from industry experience. And that eye care team truly exists to serve. And what's really neat about it is that they have enormous learning mindedness. They are a community of sharers. So a lot of times salespeople are more situated in a manner where they keep the information to themselves. Our team is really a community, and they share with one another. They do what we call masterminding, which is the ability to exchange information. They are invigorated and inspired to keep learning, and we share a lot of different resources there. So all things considered, eye care is truly a heritage industry. So we find that people who grow up in optical families oftentimes stay in optical, and I actually met one yesterday. We find that people get inspired and somehow magically find their way into eye care, and they just never want to leave. And we love that. And if we support those individuals in doing what they love most and giving the gift of vision, which is really purpose driven, it aligns so beautifully with our values, you end up really creating a very high performing team. And we're very, very fortunate with the people that we have. So thanks so much for all the questions. I truly am grateful to be able to spotlight and share some of the neat things we've been up to. You know, I'm definitely fortunate that our ownership comes from a position that that people are really our center, and that they're the ones that enable us to be able to make great things happen in the eye care market. So I wouldn't say per se the friction starts from that place. And clearly, you know, over the last 15 years, I've been super fortunate to have developed a dear relationship with them. What I would say, though, is not everybody defines it the same way. Not everybody has the same adoption or willingness to have disruption. But I am fortunate that the leadership team actually is very cohesive, and we do have a great deal of trust and support for one another. And so sometimes it is a matter of being able to say, you know, let's think about this together, let's brainstorm, let's be creative. But what we often say is when we leave this room, we're united, and we're going to march, you know, together forward for the best interest of the company. And that gives us the opportunity to be able to, you know, to be in cohesion, because otherwise mixed messages really cause a lot of confusion and ends up wasting a lot of time. And we have great things that we want to accomplish. And so sometimes it does come back to, you know, looking at your values. Sometimes we've had to say to ourselves, like, if we're stating that compassion is one of our main values, are we really treating this individual, or are we really treating the circumstance in that way? And, you know, you do get into some really interesting conversations, and sometimes we don't start from the same place. But I really do believe that we have an organization that favors trusting one another, starting from a place of positive intent, that we all mean well and we all want to accomplish the same goal. We may just have a different way of getting there, and an enormous capacity for receiving feedback and looking at feedback as a mechanism of saying, look, we need direction. We need to know how to get from here to there. And feedback is often the pathway to doing that. So I would say to you, it's not always easy, but I think we sometimes have to have those conversations that we need to have in order to help the organization move forward, and everybody ends up better off for it. I would say to you, culture does start at the interview. It starts with how you engage the individual. It starts with the way that you treat them, the conversations you have, the questions you ask, the time and investment you put into how you engage with individuals. and the way that they are made to feel and supported throughout the process. It doesn't mean that everybody is able to yield a spot, but it does mean that you do want them. Massimo talked about reputation and brand, and that is who we are. That is how we show up in the marketplace. So whether or not the individual gets a role, you do want them to be engaged and enamored with the organization that you have and the way that you conduct commerce. So I strongly believe that culture is from the storytelling that you have. It's the examples that you can call upon, and it's the very way from your communications through to your conclusion that you're able to demonstrate what is admissible and supported in the organization.